So, why does science even work? This tool that sent humans to the moon for the first time on July 16th, 1969. This tool that has decoded the 3 billion nucleotides in the human genome. Science is the best available tool that we have to discern the fundamental nature of reality because nature is understandable. The natural world behaves according to the fixed laws of physics and chemistry. Consider the tides, the timing of the high and the low tides at, say, Puerto Penasco down in Mexico. Those tides are not random, nor are they magical, governed by Poseidon. The tides are a function of the position and the gravitational pull of both the moon and the sun. Today, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, can predict high and low tides anywhere in the world with an average error of less than 5 inches because the natural world is understandable. Okay, the tides are one thing. It's relatively simple Newtonian physics. What about complex living organisms? Can we use science to understand how vertebrates first made it from the ocean and onto land? Let me introduce you to Tiktaalik. This fossil is referred to as a fish pod. It's part lobe-finned fish, like a coelacanth, and it's part amphibian, like a primitive salamander. Wait, you're not sure what a coelacanth is? It sounds like it might be time for one of Jared's creature features. Okay, so this is another cast of an actual fossil. This is the famous coelacanth. The coelacanth is a lobe-finned fish, named as such because they have these prominent limb buds within their fins, right here. So that is actually appendicular skeleton. That is what's going to eventually evolve into our humerus and our radius and our ulna. So paleontologists believe that this coelacanth had been extinct for 66 million years until, by pure serendipity, one was recovered in a South African fish market in 1938. So these are very large fish. They can grow up to 6 feet in length, but more importantly, they're part of a clade of fishes. A clade is just a group of organisms that share a common ancestor. A clade that includes the coelacanth, the lobe-fin fishes, and the lungfishes. Lungfishes are, just like the name would imply, a fish that has evolved primitive lungs. The lungfishes are the direct ancestors of the first tetrapods. Tetra meaning 4 and pod meaning foot. So the tetrapods are the vertebrates that live on land, all those animals that we know and love. Be sure and check out the footage that I have below of an extant lungfish, a lungfish from today, walking from one small mud pool across the dried mud to another small pool. Those lungfish will eventually go on to give rise to the first tetrapods, a class of animals that you probably know about, the amphibians, like this leopard frog skeleton. Notice that flat head on this amphibian, and we'll come back to head shape in a video below. The other thing I wanted to let you know is that later on in the semester, you'll have the opportunity to do a virtual leopard frog dissection in our animal structure, function, and behavior module. And those amphibians, they eventually go on to give rise to the reptiles. So as I mentioned in our course introduction, I manage a student-led initiative out of my lab. It's a community outreach program called the Animal Ambassadors. And so we maintain a collection of about 25 different species of reptiles, a handful of amphibians, and quite a few arthropods. One of the reptiles that we house is this chunky monkey, Mr. Azul. Azul is a male Indonesian blue-tongued skink. Hopefully he will cooperate eventually and flick out his bright blue tongue. So we're going to cover animal color vision later on in the semester, but important to note that fish, reptiles, and birds are tetrachromatic. They see another primary color that our crappy mammal eyes can't see. So that blue tongue, it's actually reflecting ultraviolet radiation. So it looks very bright to potential reptilian and avian predators. It's probably a pretty good warning signal. It's also a bright signal that's used to communicate over far distances with conspecifics, with other skinks. But back to our original question. Can science really understand what happened hundreds of millions of years ago to biological entities, to living beings? How do we get from lungfish to amphibians to reptiles like Azul? How do vertebrates make the leap from water to land? The discovery of Tiktaalik is an amazing story that you need to know about. To understand the story of Tiktaalik, you have to recognize that at the time of its discovery, archaeologists had recovered lobe-finned fish, similar to the coelacanth, that dated at 385 million years ago. They'd also recovered the first amphibians, Ichthyostega and Acanthostega, who we'll return to, and they dated at around 365 million years ago, leaving this window between 385 and 365. Here's the crazy part. Dr. Neil Shubin, who you'll listen to in a video below, predicted that he would find this transitional fossil, the first vertebrate with 4 limbs, a tetrapod fish pod, part fish, part tetrapod, and 375 million year old rock. Dr. Shubin spent 6 years looking for it in the Canadian Arctic, trying to ward off polar bears. But his perseverance paid off. He found it. He predicted that this transitional form between fish and salamander would exist in 375 million year old rock. That, my friends, is the power of good predictive science, because nature, including deep evolutionary history, is understandable.